here is they attacked you. You know why? As they have attacked me. If you destroy the messenger, you destroy the message. See? Mm-hmm. You were on it. You were telling what was going on. So you had to be destroyed. And the first thing they do, rather than just murder you, they have to destroy who you are. You destroy your message first. And this is a full-time job. And that's why, think about this, is really, look up anti-corruption. Look under podcasts. Look under this. Why are there so few of us fighting so many of them? Mm-hmm. That's what's going on. I dedicated my life and accepted the consequences.
So many that I used to work with turned on me and backstabbed me and, conformed or compromised, in my opinion.
What they do is they succumb. Tizza said that everybody has a price. Well, everybody has a level of pain tolerance, of extortion, which is why children become such a tradable piece in this. In other words, everybody has that level. Every friend that I had previous, they're either gone or have turned on me. I'm telling you that my children gave up my location. And I'm not blaming them. People that I know that worked for my company for years, this is who they are.
My own children turned against me too. I mean, my daughter, but it's my whole family. It's but this is who I am, and I would do anything to protect my daughter. I would do anything to protect my son, and I don't blame her. I don't hold any grudges, and it is what it is.
You know what I tell people? My 5 children aren't on drugs. Yours were. And the formula to end this is we've got to care about what happens to one another. Listen, I was a rich man, and they wanted to give me $50 more million to be quiet. But there comes a time you've got to look in the mirror and say to yourself, if not you, who? And I, at one point, had to have the conversation with myself, knowing that this was going to be a road that I was taking that was going to be dark and it was going to be long. And I had to accept the consequences for the sheer possibility of being at the right time at the right place. And my evidence has been on the president's desk. He knows. He knows enough to stop that airplane. So when I was saying Ukraine and money laundering, well, here we are. And I told you it was going through the banking departments. And it went through the banking department in New Hampshire. The only banks that have recently opened in these years have been owned by the drug cartel, which is protected by the lack of auditing from the banking department. It is their money. Somebody says, follow the money, and I did. My expertise was in banking in money, so I found it. No one can say that I didn't tell you about the Ukraine and the laundering. And I'm showing you how they make the money. I show you how they protect the money. I show you the courts. Everything I've given you, I've given to the FBI on video. And you've seen me knock on their doors and go to the FBI video. I did it so they would never have the lack of deniability. Now, this is what's going on right now. And this is so important. I'm going to try to get a video out within the next 24 hours. I had a conversation with an IRS agent after showing up 6 years ago, and you'll hear it. His name is Jemiah Devlin. He's out of the same Portsmouth office. He directed me to the criminal division of the IRS TICA, which turned out who ran a cover-up operation for 3 years. During that time, they tried to murder me. And again, I want people out there to remember, if they go to a video that I have called The List, you'll see that what I'm telling you is a settlement offer for $50 million, and it's signed by their attorneys that included the IRS, the banking department, Bill Shaheen, every lawyer and accountant. The Department of Revenue, all of them on it. And what I refused was given to the releases, because if I released these people, they would continue to do it, not just to me, but to everybody. And those are the victims that I've met. I could not turn my back on them. for any price, and the price has been great. But now, this guy Devlin calls me up and says, oh, well, we were just looking at the taxes. What's happening here is now. They've got to cover up, saying we filed bankruptcy, the whole thing. They've got to make me go away because because the Ukraine is going back to Shaheen with the money laundering. That's why you heard Giuliani turn around and saying, high-ranking Democrats. Now, what people don't know is Senator Jeanne Shaheen's husband, Bill Shaheen, was the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton, leading fundraiser in the country, super delegate. Oh, and by the way, he's the lobbyist for the opioid industry. See? That is the deep state. She is the deep state. So is Hassan. And that's what they've come to realize. They're using their money to leverage them. But this is what I'm afraid of. And that's that video that I did send out to show you. Is he making a deal, or is he putting them in jail? Howley sits next to the president. So does Grady from Epoch Times. So they have the evidence. The evidence first went to Durham. He has it. I'm asking the president to drain this swamp. What cost me a lifetime of work is to open that door. They are exposed. The FBI has this evidence. I put out a Freedom of Information Act that shows them they have the evidence. The IRS is threatening me now because we have opened the door. That door gets the Department of Revenue, gets the banking department, you get the banking department, you get their banks, you get the deep state and the cartels and human trafficking. These evil bastards, you get their money. And it's a trail to all of them. And ask yourself, they stopped that plane in the air because that evidence stopped that plane. They have their top guy. This guy, Howley, if you look at Fox said the most embarrassing story of the year award was to Patrick Howley for outing the Georgia governor for a blackface. This is what this guy does. He digs into this. This is also a message to them that not that Gill found him, Howley found Gill. They know exactly who I am. They know exactly what I have, and they're using it. So here's the question, and I want everybody to ask themselves this question. Are they going to drain the swamp? Are we going to use this evidence for the benefit of the people? I didn't take their money, and I lived through this for that one possibility. Well, everybody, we are here. We have that possibility. We have the money. You're going to find that the FBI is part of this deep state. Our own DEAs are working and protecting cartels. The attorney generals in each of our office, those people control any investigation. From there, they become judges. It is one giant network. It is what they're calling the deep state. It is organized crime in each of our states.
You know, it's you mentioned in each of our states, and it's, you know, how I sort of came about doing this radio show was I felt kind of that, you know, I was really oppressed and I was being targeted for many years. But not just that, you know, once I had my son, the stakes got higher and I became involved in family court, and I started researching, you know, the root of the issue. And then I, you know, became enlightened about human trafficking and the global cartel. And I, you know, I kind of came to this point to where it was like, well, you know, I'm either going to take this in private and continue to take the targeting, and, you know, my own family and everybody around me, you know, pressing me and trying to keep me down in poverty, or so I can be targeted for human trafficking. Or
you know what it is? It scares people around them.
Well, I'm going to speak out. And you know, I really felt like it came down to, you know, the slander was one thing. But it was like, you know, it really came down to I'm either going to keep taking it in private, and I'm just going to keep moving like I have been, or I'm going to stay put my feet down somewhere, and I'm just going to, you know, speak out and go public. And it's like I just decided to go public, and so, all the world's a stage, right?
Right.
And
we have one method
it's like,
of winning.
It's like, I work with people like you, and I also work with the trolls and the bullies online that are targeting me. That's the way I see it.
Well, think about this. You ready? What are you fighting that people would disagree with? Do we not believe there's human trafficking? How about this? And if you're turning around and fighting and trying to protect these children, exactly why are you being targeted? Think about, your mission is one of protecting and saving the lives of children. You see what I'm saying?
I worked as a nanny. I worked as a nanny in Beverly Hills. I worked with children that had mild Asperger's. I did art therapy with children. I love children. And, these people have really, they've really just, they've made it to where I can't even work with children anymore, basically,
Right.
So
well, the crime that you committed in their eyes is the crime that they fear the most. Listen, if your enemies know you the best. I had a settlement meeting, and there was 4 of their lawyers, and their last lawyer put their hand on my shoulder as they were walking out the conference room, and this is what he said to me. He says, "You're cursed by brilliant insight and condemned by moral conviction." And what it said to me was this, and what you should remember: your enemies know you better than anyone. Their business is to find where your weakness is. Their greatest fear is also our greatest opportunity and method of turning this country around and taking it back from the corrupt. And that is, we've got to organize. And you start by using an entity such as social media and turning around and telling people what happens and having them listening. And so many people out there, as I had found, and we started billing tremendous numbers, was there's victims everywhere. There was no place to go. How many times have you heard this? I went to the FBI, I went to the police, I went to this, and people are desperate. As yourself, how many times have you said to yourself, who do I go to? The President of the United States.
I flat out went to the police and the FBI with evidence, and I got no response. And I did get a response from the local police, however, in Los Angeles, and they told me that, they would repeatedly be putting me in jail, basically. So if I continued.
Where you go for help is the entity that we're fighting, and it goes all the way up the ladder. That's what you find out. So the fear that they have is we the people organize, and you do it through social media. You compare stories, and that's what State of Corruption was about. I would go, and I hired a staff, would go people to court, videotape. I had them drop cases as soon as they said Gill was in the courtroom with a video camera. They're afraid of exposure. Our exposure is our weapon, which is also why they control the media. But that's why social media, why do you think so many restrictions are happening in social media? They know where.
Well, I mostly see it on Facebook, and recently I think, I personally started experiencing it because I was researching China murdering the activists and, that were protesting.
It was, if you remember, not long ago, that Zuckerberg got called in to Senate. It was Shaheen that put that together. The cartel, the same Shaheen and Dick Agnew, sued Facebook, which a lot of people don't know. But they sued them because of me and State of Corruption. I spoke to Facebook's attorneys. They told me what was going on, that they didn't want to close State of Corruption down, but they were forced to, which is why Zuckerberg was under the microscope. That was the means of coordinating and talking to people across this country. And the one thing they don't need or don't want is everybody talking and communicating.